What's up, everybody? David from Pro Duo Flippers here. Today I just want to talk about niching down. You've probably heard that term before, and you've heard advice that maybe you should niche down and start selling in fewer categories. Basically, it just means to narrow down what you're sourcing, so that you're not just sourcing all different kinds of stuff, and you're getting down into either fewer categories or maybe even only one category. Or if you were completely niched down, you would be selling one product. Personally, I am an everything seller, and so I'm just going to kind of start off with talking about why I'm an everything seller, maybe the benefits of being an everything seller, and then I'll kind of talk about maybe what's bad about being an everything seller and why maybe you want to niche down, why maybe eventually I will niche down, and the benefits of that. So my wife and I are full-time sellers on eBay, and we have been doing this for quite a while now. I have been full-time for a little over 3 years. She's been full-time for about a year and a half, and all we do is sell on eBay. That's our only income. So like I said, I am an everything seller. What that means for me is that when I source, I pretty much look at everything or just about everything and pick up whatever I think will make money. And I determine that by looking up sold comps on eBay. So I do my research. I don't just willy-nilly buy whatever I see, but sometimes I will buy stuff without looking it up, but not very often. So what that means for me, like let's say I go to a thrift store, I pretty much walk through the whole store. So I don't look at just women's clothing. I don't look at just electronics. I don't look at just shoes or sporting goods or whatever. I kind of walk through the whole store. I may not look through every aisle, but I look through most aisles. So I probably skip on looking at women's shirts. I probably skip on looking at purses, and for the most part, I skip on looking at media stuff. I might look quickly in the book section for certain types of books, or if a new rack of book comes out, I might look at those. But anyway, the point is, I look at all different kinds of things. I have a certain route that I normally take through the thrift store, and I look at all kinds of stuff. Why do I do this? So for the biggest reason is it makes it very easy to find lots of stuff. So if you are new to reselling, or maybe you've been reselling a while, but you just have a hard time finding stuff, it may be that you just need to branch out and look in more areas. There are different ways to do that. You can just go to more stores, or if you have a limited amount of stores to go to, which I feel like I kind of do. I live in a town of about, I don't know, around 60,000 people or so. We have two good thrift stores, one okay thrift store, and then a couple tiny ones that are almost not worth going to. And so, and then we also have an auction house here in town that has regular auctions. I would say like every week or two they have an auction that I buy a lot of stuff from too. So, and given that it's that small of a town, I don't have any other options really, unless I want to drive about 30 to 40 minutes to get to more thrift stores. That's what I have in town for me to source. And I like to be able to stay in town. And so I would say that because I'm an everything seller, I can find enough stuff for my wife and I to completely support ourselves financially by just selling on eBay. So we sold 6,000 items last year, and we're probably going to sell 7,000 items this year. We are currently at 2,700 listings, and we will probably be surpassing 3,000 listings this year. That gives you an idea of how much stuff I'm able to find in this town. And I could find more if I just spent more time sourcing. And I do plan on spending more time sourcing this year. So anyway, so like I said, I will find everything. I look in the shoes, women's shoes and men's shoes. I look in the women's clothing and the men's clothing. I look in the sporting goods, electronics. I look at backpacks. I look at industrial type stuff. I will occasionally look in books, like I said. When it comes to auctions, I will pretty much look up everything that looks like it could be of value that would be, reasonable to ship, etc. So, and so the main reason you might want to be an everything seller is so that you can find lots of stuff, and you're not stuck not finding stuff and wishing you could find more and not having enough to list. So I always have had more than enough stuff to list. I have a surplus of things to list at my garage at my house. I'm kind of working on that. I've been much better in this past year that everything I buy pretty much gets listed now. And so there's some stuff still in the garage, quite a bit of stuff that needs to get listed from mostly from auctions, because you get a lot of stuff in bulk there. But so what this means is that, let's say there's a seller at the thrift store locally here that goes and only looks at women's clothing. So maybe they go in and they find one or two items. They spend a lot of time looking because they look more, at every single aisle and look in depth. And maybe they only find two items, but in the same amount of time, I've gone through the whole store and I've found 15 items. So that's just the kind of thing that benefits me by being an everything seller. And then what if you were looking at shoes and your main source of shoes was one thrift store that does really well, and then all of a sudden they do something completely different with their shoes. So like, for example, Goodwill is now taking most of their best shoes and listing them on their personal auction site. So if that was your only source of inventory, then all of a sudden you found much less inventory that you're able to sell. Or maybe just somewhere, wherever you're buying them now, raises their prices significantly, and all of a sudden you can't make the profit that you're making. What are you going to do? You're going to end up having to switch categories or switch items or find a new place to source for those items. So that's another reason that it's beneficial to be an everything seller, because that's fine. You just pick up less shoes and you pick up more pants or more electronics or whatever. And so there really is no other reason to be an everything seller. I guess you can find those higher profit items because you're looking at everything, and just kind of picking the best of each category. But here's a couple of the drawbacks from being an everything seller. One is that you spend a lot of time looking up stuff. You spend a lot of time researching because you're looking at new stuff all the time, and you don't know what's worth money and what's not. And so it takes a lot of time to look things up. And then when you go to list them, it's the same thing. Like you're not very experienced, so you have to spend more time researching those items and figuring out where you should be pricing them, how you should be describing them, etc. So so listing takes a lot more time. I would say that sourcing maybe takes more time. But on the flip side of that, you become more and more knowledgeable, and over time it becomes less work for you to do those newer things that you're finding. So one reason is it just takes more time to research, basically. Research whether it's worth buying and research how you're going to price it. Another big problem is that is inventory, I guess. So it's much simpler to organize your inventory. I guess we'll just kind of talk about these drawbacks for an everything seller, at the same time we'll talk about how it's beneficial to be a niche seller, right? So on the first part of it, I was saying that the bad part about it is that you have to do a lot more research. If you're a niche seller and you're only selling women's jeans, then you know women's jeans. You probably don't even have to look up comps when you're looking through the jeans, because you are so familiar with all different brands and which ones are worth money. And then at the same time, when you go to list, you probably don't even, if you're only doing women's jeans, you probably don't even need to do any research when listing them. You just sell somewhere off of what you already have, and you already know the prices that you can get for them, and you're done. So that's one of the biggest benefits of being a niche seller is the speed that you can find the inventory that you're looking for, and then also listing is much faster. And so yes, you can find inventory fast, but it also means you need to go to more places, right? So if you only have 3 thrift stores, that's a problem. But if you live in a more populated area where you can go to 20 thrift stores in a day, then you can go in and out and just check that one, those few aisles or whatever that you need to, and move on to the next one. Same thing with any category. If you're in electronics, you just hit all the electronics in all the different stores. But keep in mind that you'll have to hit more stores. Or maybe you find some way to source online. So another problem with being an everything seller is packaging, right? You have to have all different sizes of boxes or bubble wrap and packing peanuts and all kinds of stuff. Your shipping's probably going to be slower because you're not just doing the same thing every time. You're using poly mailers sometimes, bubble mailers sometimes, boxes sometimes. You're having to wrap large, heavy objects that you haven't packaged before, so you don't have the right size box, etc. So in our shipping station, we have all different kinds of stuff. So we have poly mailers and bubble mailers and like 4 or 5 different sizes for each. I have probably, I would say 5 or 6 boxes that I buy in bulk, and then I also have like a whole closet full of miscellaneous boxes, and then some more really big ones out in our garage just in case we need it for something. So there's nothing worse than going to ship something and not being able to find the right size box. And then maybe you have to use a box that's too big and you end up paying more for shipping than you need to because it's bigger than it needed to be. But anyway, So should you niche down or not? That's really a question of where you are and what inventory is available to you and how you source. Maybe how long you've been doing it. I think the longer I do it, I'm probably always going to be an everything seller because I like to be able to stay in this one town that I'm at. But I might rule out some things. Like I really don't want to do collectible or breakable things anymore, just because I don't really enjoy it. It's not interesting to me, and also the packaging is kind of a nightmare, and sometimes things get broken, and it's just not worth it to me. So I'm probably going to avoid that from now on. I like doing electronics because there's very big profit in those things, but I really don't like testing them. So I'll probably continue doing that for a little while, but maybe at some point I'll end up quit doing that too. So I would say basically for you, if you're having trouble finding inventory, maybe move more towards an everything seller, or at least pick up another category or two. If there's plenty of inventory available for you, if there's tons of thrift stores, if there's tons of garage sales where you live, etc., then maybe you want to niche down into fewer categories or one category, so you can really become an expert in that category, so you can really streamline your listing processes, really streamline your shipping processes. I would say that the really big stores or most successful people on eBay are niche down. I think that we could probably be better if we did niche down, and I think that maybe eventually we will. We are trying to get bigger and bigger and make more and more money year after year. We've been doing that successfully. I've been doing that successfully for 7 or 8 years now, and my wife and I have been doing it, since she joined me a year and a half ago. Every year we're making more and more money, but we're about getting maxed out to the point where we have to make some major changes. And so niching down might be one of the ones coming up in the future. So anyway, I hope that kind of helps explain things for you. If you're wondering why people are advising you to niche down, that may or may not be good advice for you, depending on where you're at in your reselling career, depending on what inventory is available for you, what sourcing opportunities you have. But if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will respond to any questions that you have. I read all your comments. I really appreciate it. Please take the time to like and subscribe if you felt like this video was helpful for you, or if you want to see more from me. You can follow us on Instagram too. We are Pro Deal Flippers there. But anyway, like I said, hopefully this was helpful to you, and you can make some changes or not as you see needed for your business. If you're having trouble finding inventory, or if there's plenty of it for you, niche down or don't. But thanks for watching, guys. Bye.